Thank you, Ricky. I see in your notes that you have written or do write for M Live some. I wrote for it when it used to be called the Grand Rapids Press. Some things in common. Uh, it's great to be back here. My name's Andy DeBraber, and I love you all. I love being here. It's always so wonderful to return. In part because I just hope that whatever I say up here in the next few minutes adds to what's already happened. Like by the time I get up here, every time I'm here, it's like it's been so rich and full. Beth, that meditation was amazing. Also, right now, my daughter Anna, who just finished her freshman year at Michigan Tech studying environmental science, forestry, and communication, is at Gross Park. She's a park attendant there this summer, and I'm going to tell her that those bathrooms are amazingly clean. She will be happy to hear that people notice that because she works hard at it. So if you're out there anytime at Gross Park, we live in Grand Rapids, so it's the closest one to Grand Rapids. Say hi to Anna. She's out there walking around with her, appropriately beige Ottawa County uniform on. Uh, Uh, we have no power at home either, by the way. So, you know, hold hold those 100,000 or so households in West Michigan that are struggling with that right now. It was a long, hot night. I also bring greetings from Fountain Street Church, one of the other bastions of liberal spirituality in West Michigan, where I'm part of hosting a chapel service there that happens. They have a traditional service at 11 o'clock, and their chapel service at 9:30 is very similar to what you all do here, and so we're kindred spirits, and so I bring you greetings from there. Last week, I usually dress a little differently than this, but it's summer in Grand Haven, right? I mean, come on. Also, last week I was here. See, so July 14, 2019. Last week I was running down the street right about this time in the Grand Haven Triathlon. Finished at 10:37 p.m. So no, I was pushing towards the end right now, trying to break 3 hours, which I did. I was really excited. Um, One of the things that happens there also is there's something called Team Triumph. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but they have what they call angels who um, who help people with disabilities participate in triathlons. So they actually pull them in the swim in the water in a raft, and then they will push them in carts on the run, and and then have them on the bike as well, usually in a cart behind the bike. And just an amazing way of all of us to be working together to experience this way of being outside and exercising, even if we do it in different ways. And that's a huge part of what triathlon is about for me is connecting and being part of a community and helping each other. And part of the reason I do it is it helps me come from love. It makes me a better person. So I share what I share today in hopes that you have or will find a place like that. My triathlon story starts when Michael Phelps won 8 gold medals in the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. Or maybe it starts when my parents moved to a small lake north of Grand Rapids when Anna was in her earliest years of life. Or perhaps it even begins when Anna was born. She was born driven, focused, motivated, feisty, and big-hearted from the get-go. In third grade, Anna said to me, "Dad, do you think I can be an Olympic swimmer?" It was right after Michael Phelps won those medals. I said, "Yes, but you'll need to start swimming laps tomorrow." And so she did. She would wake me up in the pre-dawn hours before school, and we would go down 2 or 3 days a week to the YMCA in Grand Rapids and swim laps. Now, mind you, I had absolutely no background in anything close to competitive swimming. I watched her advanced swim lessons at the Y, and whatever I gleaned and remembered from that was what I knew about swimming. For the first couple of months, I swam without goggles. That's like how advanced in swimming I was. 10 years later, I still can't do a flip turn. Anna, though, took to it like a fish. We knew she would from the many summer days she'd spent with Grandma on Silver Lake. We couldn't pull her out of the water. 2 years later, in fifth grade, realism has a way of setting in. Anna asked me, Dad, do you think I could get a college scholarship for swimming? Sometimes she's thinking a little too far ahead, but I said, definitely, but not with me as your coach. Starting new things isn't one of Anna's strong points. Worrying about them is. So we had talked about the concept of being on a swim club or a swim team, but we hadn't gotten specific. So one day we said to her and got specific, do you want to join the Gators swim team at community college? Yes, she said. Excellent. Practice starts tomorrow. And again, she took to it like a fish. I very clearly remember her first meet. It was in East Kentwood. And of all things, she had forgotten to bring a towel. And so we went over to Target on the way and got a towel. And that towel today is still in our basement, and it's threadbare. I mean, there's not much to it, but there's something in it. She came home with a medal that day. Now, there's a lot of story between there and here. Setting Gators records, joining a different swim club that had a year-round training program, winning lots of medals, setting records on the new team, and out of the blue, amazing 200-yard backstroke that nobody expected that qualified her for a multi-state meet where Olympic swimmers and hopefuls were there. She set 3 high school records as a freshman and was named all-conference. She'd go on to be all-conference all 4 years, including 5 individual championships. Her highlight, and ours too as parents, at least in this regard, was breaking 1 minute in the butterfly at the state meet. I can so clearly picture the joy on her face when she leapt into her coach's arms after that. But I get ahead of myself. Year-round swimming in Michigan means mostly swimming indoors. And Anna loves being outdoors. Like I said, she's out at Grosse Park now. She's studying forestry. And so I was talking to another swim dad who said his son had taken up triathlons as a way to do cross-training and to get outdoors. And through a swim team event, we had found out that Anna was a good runner. We didn't know this, but she biked all over town. So the two of us participated in 5 sprint distance triathlons. So those are a swim of between 500 and 800 yards, a bike of 12 miles, and a run of 5K, 3 miles. Swimming is the first event, and Anna was always the first woman out of the water, as you might imagine, and one of the first people overall. And in the final triathlon of our second summer, she won her age group. The age group winning prize was a bottle of wine. A medal, but they gave it to her because her dad was there, so I got lucky on that one. She was 5th out of 88 women and 20th out of 206 entries in the whole event. And me? Well, let's just say she had plenty of time to cheer me on after she finished. I loved biking. I always have. Swimming and running, not so much. So the next summer, we were on track for Anna to participate in the national championships in Milwaukee when she fell in late July while longboarding for the very first time ever. I broke both bones in her left forearm. She would somehow still manage to come back and win the conference championship in backstroke and butterfly 3.5 months later. I continued to do triathlons, however. The following summer, Anna would compete in none of them with me, and I extended to the Olympic distance, which is roughly double the distance of the sprint. So they did here last week, so 1,500 meter, almost a mile swim, almost 25 mile bike, and a 10K, 6.1 mile run. That fall, in the middle of swim season, Anna hurt her shoulder. Then she went on to win 2 conference championships again, including the butterfly, which she hadn't swum in competition all season. Last summer, we did 1 triathlon together. She still beat me. By just a minute, though. I'm getting better. And then we actually did that same triathlon this year, and I was a minute faster. So was she. Last summer, I would compete in the half Ironman distance triathlon. So that's a 1.2 mile swim, a 56-mile bike, and then a half marathon at the end, 13.1 miles. It took me 6.5 hours. I'm not fast. And I'd never run that far in my life, ever. I mean, that was the scariest part for me. I'd never run that far in my life. Um, you know what? I'm just going to break from that a minute because that's one of the important pieces for me of this story. So part of the reason I do triathlons is because I love getting outside. I was running on the White Pine Trail yesterday. It was so much fun to run downtown along the water here last weekend, and the bike was out Lakeshore Drive. I mean, it's just beautiful outside. And yesterday, even in the midst of the heat, to be under the canopy of the trees made such a difference. So, like I said, I'd never run 13.1 miles before. I'd never run more than 6 miles before. Not the event. I obviously trained to get to it. But and whenever I tried to run longer distance in the past, I always got injured. And so I happened to read a book. I travel for my work a lot. I was in Montana, and the woman who I stay at Airbnbs because they're a lot more interesting than hotels, and usually in interesting places and neighborhoods and people. And she had a library. Take a book, leave a book, and I picked up a book called Born to Run. I don't know. It's been about, some of you are nodding. You might have read it. It's been out about 10 years. And it was a guy about my age at the time who wrote it, Christopher McDougall. And he was trying to figure out, A, why he kept getting injured when he tried to run. So did I. And that led him to trying to figure out why, as humans, we stand upright and walk on 2 feet. Why did Homo sapiens win the evolution? Because it would seem like being on all fours has many advantages, including being much faster. Anyway, it's a great book. Great sociology, great story. If you like that kind of thing, find Born to Run. But after reading that book, I totally transformed my running style. So in the early 70s, American shoe companies started making running shoes for people. They gave them to track teams to try. The track teams tried them, and all their runners got injured. Nike would come back, and there's all the shoes in the middle of the track, and they're running either barefoot or with their old shoes. And that didn't stop Nike and other running shoe companies. So what they did is make nice cushioned heels, right? So that when you run, you can land on your heel and be cushioned. It doesn't matter how much cushioning you have. It goes up into your knee, goes up into your hips, goes up into your back, and you're going to get injured. At least I am. Maybe some people can do it. So the running style that Christopher McDougall found by studying communities that ran for their food. They chased down animals. So animals who are on all fours can only breathe once per step because it collapses their lungs. So you can only breathe once per step. So they can run very, very fast for very short periods of time. Humans, when we're upright, we can breathe as much as we want while we're running. And so tribes would chase down animals until they couldn't run anymore. And that's how we got food, at least our protein, some of it. So what I did is learn to run in a much more upright way, to take shorter strides, to land on the ball of your foot, because our foot is amazingly designed. There's all these bones in the ball of our foot and muscles and tendons that are designed to take that impact and to not send it up into our bodies. So I've got my shoes here that I used last year. There's not much to them. There's basically a piece of rubber on the bottom and some material on the top. When I brought these in to get new ones this year, the guy was like, "You did what in those? That would kill most people." But it saved me. I did not get injured at all. And then I've learned to breathe while running. So I used to breathe with each step. I remember in cross country, I ran cross country in high school. I wasn't good at it. And I'd ask the good runners, "What do I need to do to get better?" And they would say, "Breathe." I didn't know what they meant. Now I know. It's only taken me 30 years to figure it out. But when I get my body in the right position, when I push my head back a little bit and my shoulders back a little bit, kick my lower back out and my hips up. When I'm running, I'm still learning it. But when I'm running, then I can take a deep breath, hold it, breathe it out. My running always used to be with every step I would breathe, or with every 2 steps I would breathe. It was always connected to my legs. Now my breathing isn't connected to my legs, at least when I get in the groove. When I get my body in that right position, I can run, and then it's also about faith and trust that my legs can go faster than I think they can. And so that's what I was doing out here exactly at this time a week ago, saying, legs, you can go faster than I think you can. You can do what I think is impossible. So 2 years later now, Anna's shoulder still hurts. The doctors say there's nothing she can do about it beyond physical therapy, which she's done. Um, she just finished her freshman year at Michigan Tech, which doesn't have a swim program, and she's fine with that. Her dad continues to enjoy the gift of triathlon that she gave me. It gets me outside, which I absolutely love. It gets me in some of the best physical shape of my life. I like how I feel. And it offers me great space and time for meditation and reflection. One of the pieces I love about it. Just get out and have that contemplative time, an hour or two at a time where my phone is somewhere else. And I just get to commune with nature and myself and the universe. I also see how very concretely putting in hard work leads to improvement. Last year, for the first time, I followed a plan to train for a triathlon. Wow. Matt Fitzgerald put the plan together. He knew what he was doing. It really made a difference. When I finished that half Ironman, I felt great, actually. I didn't expect to. So I'm going to try again this year and hope to not feel quite as great. I'm going to push myself. When you're doing a distance for the first time, you don't know how hard to push yourself. You don't know how long it's going to take. And then my goal, so I'm going to do another half Iron this next month. And then my goal for 2020, my 50th year on Earth, is to do a full Ironman distance triathlon. 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a marathon at the end, 26.2 miles. If it all goes well, it'll take 13 to 14 hours. Y'all had, last time I was here, the musicians who were here were triathletes. They do these things, they do the full ones. Wow. And all because a little girl said, Dad, do you think I can be an Olympic swimmer? And started waking me up at 6 in the morning to go swim laps. So, swimming. Swimming is where the triathlon starts. And one of the things I've learned in swimming is to get acclimated to the water. So the first few triathlons, I waited until they said go, and I jumped in the water. We start really early in the morning. The water is often cold. That is a shock to the system. I think it's a lesson for us in a lot of things. I can tell you last week at 7:45 in the morning, putting my face in Lake Michigan was a shock to the system. But I was in there 15 minutes before the event started. So when it started, I was fine. And then learning to go slow when I start, because I get in, the adrenaline's pumping, boom, I just want to get out there, and I get 200 yards out. It actually happened here because there's a whole story, but I got caught in a pack of people who were much faster than me. I try to usually just be on the edge. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start slow. And I got about 200 yards out, and it's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. The swimming is the scariest part of the triathlon. So I flip over on my back and breathe, sit here for a minute, catch my breath. And it's also the scariest part because water holds primordial fear. Right? There's so many stories of boats and ships, or the story of Jesus telling the disciples to get in and go to the other side. They don't want to do that. There's a primordial. My daughter, like, she's this incredible swimmer. She really hates swimming in open water. It's like, I don't know what's down there, like, there's no sharks in Lake Michigan. We're okay. Okay. beginnings of a tree are also the scariest time, the hardest time. They take time to acclimate. Acorns drop and will sometimes sit for years before deciding, oh, now's the right time to figure out which way my roots are going to go. And a friend of mine wrote this, Lataro. I started this summer off by breaking up with my fears. Fears of missing out, fears of not being relevant, fears of appearing stagnant. I quit every board I was on. I stopped socializing for the sake of it. Dissociated from friendships that provided no return on investment, and stopped volunteering or working for free. I've never been so peaceful, happy, and certain in my life. And I'm excited to fill those spaces with new people and exciting adventures. I invite us to break up with our fears, to encounter them on a regular basis. I learned something new about swimming also in the past 3 weeks. Elite swimmers exhale through their nose. So they've studied this and found that it actually increases your speed and buoyancy by about 9% as opposed to exhaling out of your mouth. So right, you're swimming in the water, you turn, you breathe in through your mouth, but then I was always breathing out my mouth too. But the bubbles just go up around your neck. But when you breathe out your nose, they actually go down your body and help hold you up. I can guarantee you I'm not getting 9% return on that investment. Maybe 2 or 1. But the other return I'm getting on it is I don't swallow as much water because my mouth isn't open the whole time. And I want to invite us to just try that because it's counter to the way most of us have learned to breathe in meditation practices or just breathing exercises. It's usually in through your nose and out through your mouth. So try it breathing in through your mouth and out through your nose 3 times. Be curious about how that affects you. The biking is, as I said earlier, my favorite part of the triathlon. There's lots of room to breathe compared to running or swimming. And what I've learned there is to go hard. For me, to know what your strengths are and to know when you can push yourself. If you would know strength and patience, says Hal Borland, welcome the company of trees. Know when it's time to push yourself, when it's time to really shoot up in that trunk, or to put out all your leaves, or to get the fruit that you're made for. Also learn to stay hydrated. So this is an Aero bottle, it's called. In that half Ironman I talked about, we're about 10 miles from the end of the bike ride, so about 45 miles in. And my legs were starting to just feel them starting to cramp up. And there are about every 10 miles, there's a bottle exchange. So you can give them your empty bottle and get a new bottle of water or Gatorade. And so there was one coming up, so I grabbed it, got a new bottle of Gatorade. And what you do is you take it and you pour it into this. So this is right, I'm in an Aero position. It's right here. I can drink it without having to reach down, grab my bottle, and risk losing it. So I pour it in. And about a mile later, I hit a bump in the road. My straw goes flying out. I'm like, oh no, this can't happen. So I slam on the brakes, which was really stupid because there might have been people behind me, and turn around and go get it. So there are going to be bumps in the road when you're pushing hard. And sometimes you got to stop and go back and get it and stay hydrated. Take care of yourself. The breathing exercise I invite you to in this moment is to exhale all of your air as much as possible. And then we're going to breathe in for a count of 4, hold it for 7, and then breathe out for 8. So try and clear all the air out. Breathe in for 4, It's a practice that has been developed in a number of cultures around the world. There's so many ways to learn to breathe, and that can help. It's one that I found helpful, and it's one you can do anywhere if people don't know you're doing it. And it just kind of maybe the clearing of the air they know you're doing. So like, are you suffocating? Like, what are you doing? But just to breathe in for 4 to hold it, and then to breathe out for 8. To do that 3 or 4 times. I've already talked about running. One of the pieces of running, and one of the things about triathlon is that we do it because we're helping each other get better. I mean, I call them events. I don't call them races. We're helping each other get better. We're pushing each other, and we're making space for one another um, to breathe. And I really feel like I would be. I just lost the word. I don't know what it is. It would be bad if I didn't mention Eric Garner this morning. Some of you remember that Eric Garner was an African American man in New York City who was selling cigarettes illegally and was taken down by the police. And as he was saying, "I can't breathe," one of the officers put a chokehold on him that had actually been banned in the police department for a number of years. And he kept saying, "I can't breathe." And he died. And just this week, um, prosecutors declined to charge the officer who kept choking him, even as he pleaded, "I can't breathe." So he won't face federal charges, thanks to Federal Attorney General William Barr. And this is yet another example of white supremacy in action. Nature teaches me, says Micah Hobbs Frazier, the persistence and perseverance. Because in the end, nothing stops nature. If a rose can grow out of the concrete, then so can we. We can make space for others to breathe, as well as making space for ourselves to breathe. We need to change the system. Because indeed, we are all connected. I know you've had a focus on the earth and our relationship to it of late, and I didn't go watch all the videos. But I did read the book that I quoted on trees, um, and the some of the other quotes are from this book, in addition to the open and closing words, "Emergent Strategy" by Adrienne Marie Brown, and she invites us ways of doing organizing and of changing the world that are reflective of how nature works, that are much healthier than the ways we've typically done it. But I imagine you've heard, we used to think that trees, like sometimes we think people are individuals and that, they're strong and on their own. And yet we know now through the work of Susan Simard in particular, through the great novel Overstory, yet about how they communicate. They communicate through their crowns in this great, amazing network of, I don't know how to pronounce it, mycorrhizal fungi underneath, where they're transferring things from one to each other, recognizing that some need more of something and some need less of something else, and communicating and protecting one another. Susan Simard says, "These discoveries have transformed our understanding of trees from competitive crusaders of the self to members of a connected, relating, communicating system." That's my hope for us. I want to share one last quote from Daniel Christian Wall. "The neo-Darwinist story of individuals and species in fierce competition for limited resources is an inadequate and limited conception of life. Nature sustains life by creating and nurturing communities. In today's leading life sciences, evolution is no longer seen as a struggle for existence, but as a collaborative dance and an exploration of novelty." Fritjof Capra pointed out that sustainability is a dynamic process of co-evolution rather than a static state. Sustainability is a property of an entire web of relationships rather than a characteristic of a single individual, company, country, or species. We're all connected. We're all connected. So I invite us to take time to slow down and to breathe, to appreciate nature. I heard a talk recently where someone struggles with the word God. There might be a few of you out there, a few of us, but talked about the great outdoors. G-O-D. Ooh, that helps me. Take time to connect with strangers. We're learning how healthy that is. And take time to celebrate. Celebrate the victories. And finally, get outside. Go to those many, I'm going to go to one afterwards today, one of those many great Ottawa County parks that you have and so many other places, and breathe with the trees. Thank you so much.